So what did he tell you?
He said something about a hit.
A hit on who?
Dolph.
A woman closely connected to Yo Gotti and Cornelius Smith, the man found guilty in the Young Dolph case, has stepped forward with major allegations, and the tension inside that courtroom escalated fast. According to her testimony, she's putting major attention on Gotti's alleged connection to the case, while also bringing up other violent incidents tied to the bigger picture. The accusations are heavy, and people are paying close attention. It all started during day 2 of the Hernandez-Govan trial in Shelby County Criminal Court in Memphis. A woman walked up to the witness stand, got sworn in, and wasted no time making her presence felt. The room was locked in as she gave her full name for the record, and the prosecutor jumped right into the questions without missing a beat.
Morning. Could you state and spell your name for the jury?
My name is Angela Arnold.
The attention quickly turned to Cornelius Smith, whose name has been connected to one of the most talked about criminal cases in Memphis rap history.
Ms. Arnold, are you familiar with someone named Cornelius Smith?
Yes.
The prosecutor started building the timeline piece by piece, making it clear for the jury how long she had known Smith and how deep that connection went.
How are you familiar with him?
Dating my boyfriend
How long have you been with Ms. Smith?
since 2016.
Every detail mattered, and the pressure in that courtroom was real. Cornelius Smith was identified as one of the 2 men found guilty in the Young Dolph case. The second man was Justin Johnson, better known as Straight Drop. Prosecutors in courtroom testimony connected both men to an alleged $100,000 hit placed on Dolph, with claims that the money was tied back to Anthony Big Jook Mims, Yo Gotti's older brother and a major name at CMG. That claim sent shockwaves through Memphis and had everybody talking. The main focus in court that day was Hernandez-Govan, the man prosecutors described as the go-between in the whole setup. They claimed he played the middle role, helping connect the people involved and passing messages back and forth with Big Jook. It painted a picture of a much bigger operation behind the scenes, and every detail added more pressure to the case. Angela Arnold took the stand to support parts of what Cornelius Smith had already told the court the day before. When prosecutors asked if she knew Hernandez-Govan, she made it clear that they weren't close. She said she had only seen him before while riding with Cornelius to his place in Memphis's Orange Mound area.
And how are you familiar, or where have you seen Mr. Govan?
A couple of times riding with Cornelius over his house.
Then the questions got deeper. The prosecutor turned the focus toward private talks, asking whether Cornelius had ever spoken to her about conversations involving Govan and what was really being said behind closed doors.
And so did Mr. Smith ever tell you about discussions that he might have had with Mr. Govan?
Yes.
That one simple yes opened the door to everything else, and the prosecutor moved in fast, pressing for the full story behind those conversations.
So what did he tell you?
He said something about a hit.
A hit on who?
Dolph.
The courtroom got real quiet because everybody knew the next answers could change the whole picture of the case. Angela Arnold told the jury that Cornelius Smith had spoken to her about an alleged plan targeting young Dolph before the violent incident ever took place. That claim hit hard. She remembered hearing a money amount tied to it, saying she believed it was much higher, but later testimony from Smith and court reports pointed to the number being $100,000. That detail became a major piece of the prosecution's story. Then the spotlight shifted straight to Anthony Mims, known as Big Jook, the older brother of Yo Gotti. Prosecutors asked Arnold whether Smith had any direct dealings with him, trying to connect the dots in front of the jury.
To your knowledge, did Smith ever have direct contact with Big Jook?
No.
The tension in the room climbed because this was a key part of the timeline. When it became clear there was no direct contact, the next big question was obvious. If they weren't speaking face to face, how were the messages moving? Arnold's answer started laying out that full chain, piece by piece.
How did he do that?
He said he would talk to Govan, send a message through him, and he would get a message to Judge.
Angela Arnold explained that the same message chain worked both ways, with Hernandez-Govan acting as the middle link the whole time. According to her testimony, information moved up and down through him, making him the key connection in the middle of it all. She broke it down under oath. Smith would reach out to Govan, Govan would pass the message along to Big Jook, and then any response would travel right back down that same line. That was the communication path Arnold described in court, and prosecutors focused hard on it because they believed it showed how the pieces stayed connected. In her account, Big Jook was described as the one making major decisions at the top of that chain. Big Jook, Yo Gotti's older brother, later lost his life in a separate violent incident in January 2024, months before this testimony was presented in court. After establishing that communication timeline, prosecutors moved ahead to November 17, 2021, the day young Dolph's life was taken. Arnold started walking the jury through the events of that day, step by step, in calm detail. Her testimony began lining up with parts of the timeline investigators had spent years trying to piece together. She told the court that earlier that morning she was at Cornelius Smith's father's house in Memphis, and Smith was there too. Everything seemed normal at first, but at some point before she left, Smith got a phone call, and that moment became a key part of what came next.
Do you remember him getting any calls that morning before you left his dad's house?
He got a phone call.
Around that same time, Angela Arnold said she noticed a white car pull up across the street, and that detail grabbed attention fast. Prosecutors had already centered part of their case around a stolen white Mercedes-Benz believed to be tied to the suspect's movements that day. According to Smith's earlier testimony, Justin Johnson picked him up in that white Mercedes that morning, made a quick stop at Govan's place on Bradley Street, and then they drove through the city searching for Dolph before eventually following him into the parking lot at Makita's Cookies. Later that afternoon, the timeline took a shocking and tragic turn. Young Dolph lost his life inside the cookie shop, where reports said he had stopped by earlier that day. The people involved left the scene, and the city was rocked by the news. Then, just hours after it all went down, Arnold said her phone started ringing non-stop.
Did Cornelius Smith contact you later that day?
Yes.
Okay. How did he contact you? Did he call you?
What stood out most was the number on the screen. Arnold told the court it wasn't Smith's regular number, and that caught her attention right away.
Did he call you from his usual phone number?
I didn't recognize the number.
According to testimony, Smith was calling from an unfamiliar phone because his personal phone had been left behind in the white Mercedes, tied to the case. Smith told Angela Arnold to come pick him up at Tulane Apartments, a place she said she had never been before. She drove her dark gray Chevrolet Trax over there and waited for him. When Smith got into the car, his first words made it clear that something serious had gone down, and the weight of that moment hit fast.
When he got into your car, did he talk to you at all?
Yeah.
What did he tell you?
He been hit.
So he got shot?
The prosecutor pushed for specifics, wanting the jury to hear exactly what Smith told Arnold about where he had been and what happened that day.
Okay, do you know where he got shot at?
In the shoulder.
Did he tell you how he got shot?
Yeah.
Every answer mattered because it helped build the timeline prosecutors were laying out in court. Arnold told the courtroom that Smith explained he had been hurt during the chaos at Makita's Cookies after violence erupted at the scene. Her testimony brought that intense moment into open court and added another layer to the case.
He said he got shot when they went up there in Makita's Cookies, and he said they were shooting it down.
Smith had also testified that he suffered a leg wound, while Justin Johnson was said to have been grazed during that same violent encounter. Then another major piece of the story came out, and it pushed the spotlight right back onto Hernandez Govan. According to Arnold's testimony, Smith told her he needed to get his phone back from the Mercedes, a detail prosecutors treated like another key step in the timeline.
So he told me we need to go up there and get his phone out the car, and he got in touch with Govan.
Arnold then told the court about the location where they went to recover it. She said they pulled up to Pressure World and Govan was already there, waiting inside another vehicle. That moment grabbed attention because it placed everyone at the same location right after the incident. Smith got out of Arnold's car and walked behind the car wash with Govan, where the two spoke privately for a few minutes.
Govan got out of the car and they walked to the back and they was talking.
Arnold said she couldn't hear what was being said, but she did notice something important. She testified that she saw Govan hand something over to Cornelius Smith, adding another layer of mystery to what happened next. After that meeting, the next stop was AutoZone, and prosecutors focused hard on that move.
Did y'all ever stop at any point?
Yeah, went to AutoZone.
Okay. So was it that same day that y'all went to AutoZone?
Yeah.
Okay. So why did y'all go to AutoZone?
To get a car cover.
They claimed it was connected to covering up the white Mercedes, the same car tied to the case. According to the courtroom timeline, the vehicle needed to be hidden and cleaned up fast so the trail would go cold. Arnold said that as the sun went down on November 17, 2021, that cleanup process was already in motion. But the story didn't stop with that day. Arnold's testimony pulled the courtroom deeper into the events that unfolded in the days and weeks after the incident. Prosecutors argued this was when the alleged plan shifted from immediate damage control into something more organized and more careful. It wasn't just about moving fast anymore. It was about staying low and keeping the chain tight. That's when talk of a higher power started coming up in the conversations being discussed in court. Arnold testified that around 3 days after the incident, Smith asked her late at night to give him another ride. This time she said he wanted to go near Govan's neighborhood because he planned to wipe fingerprints off the abandoned white Mercedes.
But he thought his fingerprints was on the car. He wanted to wipe his prints off the car.
Prosecutors pointed to that move as another step in trying to erase evidence and keep the heat away. Arnold told the court she dropped Smith off at the top of Bradford Street, drove around the block, and then came back to pick him up a short time later. That ride became another important piece in the timeline prosecutors were building. According to Smith's own testimony in court, he went into a yard behind a house carrying a towel and peroxide and cleaned part of the white Mercedes before leaving the area. He admitted on the stand that he had contacted Govan beforehand to let him know he would be in the backyard, a detail prosecutors used to strengthen the connection between them. That moment added even more weight to the communication trail already being laid out. Weeks later, Smith crossed paths with Govan again on the streets of South Memphis, and Arnold told the jury what Smith had shared with her about that meeting. She said it was one of those moments that stood out because of how quickly it unfolded.
He said he was he was in South Memphis going to get some pills, and he ran into him in traffic.
According to Arnold's testimony, Smith hit the horn. Govan made a U-turn, pulled up behind him, and stepped out to talk. The conversation, as Smith later described it to Arnold, was short, sharp, and straight to the point.
Govan was like, "I've been looking for you. You good? You all right?"
According to her testimony, Smith told Govan that everything was still under control and that nothing had been exposed. That exchange quickly became one of the most talked about moments from the trial because of what was said next. Arnold testified that after getting reassurance that no information had come out, Govan allegedly told Smith that payment was still coming.
Govan was like, "I don't know what you done heard, but I ain't said nothing."
She said Smith told her there was also mention of stopping by Privé, the Memphis restaurant connected to Yo Gotti, to make sure everyone got their share. The line repeated in court was,
"I ain't said nothing, but we gonna get this money."
That statement grabbed serious attention because prosecutors argued it pointed back toward the financial side of the alleged setup. Prosecutors leaned hard on that moment because they said it connected the alleged payment trail to a location tied to the CMG business circle. For them, it was another key piece connecting what happened afterward to the bigger claims being debated in court. Arnold also backed up the broader picture of what Smith had told her, saying Big Jook was described as a key figure in how decisions were being made at the top. Prosecutors brought up Angela Arnold's police interview from December 17, 2021, recorded just a month after the Young Dolph incident, and focused closely on what she said at the time. In that interview, Arnold said the alleged plan came from what she called a higher power, and she pointed to Big Jook as that person. That recording became a major focus because it matched parts of what prosecutors were trying to prove in court. Arnold also named Bobby Carter, describing him as someone connected to the white Mercedes at the center of the investigation. She claimed Carter had called in the vehicle and was tied into the situation as well.
Some of it. I held back some information.
Okay.
The first time. So the second time I went down there, I told him everything.
That detail added another name into an already crowded courtroom storyline and gave prosecutors more angles to examine. When asked why she didn't tell everything right away, Arnold gave a simple answer from the stand: fear. She said she was scared, and that fear was tied to the powerful names being mentioned in the case. That admission gave the jury a look into why some information came out later instead of immediately. Before he passed away in January 2024, Big Jook was known as a high-ranking executive at CMG, the label founded by Yo Gotti. Prosecutors argued that the alleged money behind the plot was connected to him and moved through Govan to Cornelius Smith and Justin Johnson, who were accused of carrying it out. That theory was central to their case and shaped much of the courtroom battle. But the defense pushed back hard. Under cross-examination, they pointed out that Arnold's information was not based on direct conversations with Big Jook or Govan. Everything she knew, by her own words, came from what Smith had told her. That became the biggest weak point in her testimony, and the defense pressed on those cracks hard. Hernandez Govan's defense attorney was Manny Aurora, an Atlanta lawyer known for handling major rap industry cases, and he came into cross-examination with a clear strategy. His first move was to highlight that Angela Arnold had not wanted to be in court that day, and to remind the jury that most of what she knew came through Cornelius Smith, her boyfriend, not from her own direct experience.
It's clear you don't want to be here today, do you?
No, I don't.
Aurora pressed her on whether she had watched any of Smith's testimony from the day before, and Arnold admitted she had seen the start of the trial on television. That moment mattered because the defense wanted to raise questions about how her memory and testimony might have been shaped by what she had already heard. From there, Aurora got more focused, asking about the things Arnold did not personally witness or hear for herself.
And with regards to what you testified to here today, I mean, everything's essentially what Cornelius has told you, right?
He narrowed it down step by step, aiming for one key point.
You're just repeating what he said to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when Arnold confirmed that she had no direct knowledge of any alleged plan, payment, or private meeting involving Big Jook, the defense treated that answer like a major breakthrough in their case. Arnold admitted in court that she had never spoken directly to Hernandez Govan, not even once. That point became a major focus for the defense because it meant everything she said about the alleged plot, the alleged payment, and the communication chain all came from what Cornelius Smith had told her. The defense pushed hard on that weakness, making it clear to the jury that her testimony was built on secondhand information. Then Manny Aurora introduced another twist that shook up the prosecution's version of events. According to questioning in court, Smith had at one point told Arnold that he believed Govan was cooperating with federal authorities.
Did Cornelius ever tell you that Mr. Govan is a federal snitch?
He said he heard something like that.
The defense used that point to suggest Smith may have had his own reasons for shifting blame toward Govan instead of keeping the focus on himself or Justin Johnson. Smith himself faced much tougher questioning during the first day of the trial, and the pressure on him was intense. Defense attorneys took a hard look at his past statements, his actions, and the choices he made after the incident. One major issue raised in court involved Smith's legal defense funds. Testimony brought up that the attorney Smith first hired had been paid around $50,000, and questioning explored whether some of that money came from people connected to the CMG business circle.
And you knew that, just we're all clear here, that money came from CMG, right?
Yeah, I don't know exactly who, but yo.
All right.
The defense argued that financial support and later statements from Smith raised serious questions about motive, loyalty, and why his story changed over time. The next line of questioning put the contradictions front and center. Prosecutors and defense both zeroed in on Smith's past statements, pointing out the gap between what he had said before and what he was saying now. When pressed about letters he wrote from jail, Smith explained that some of what he wrote was just him speaking emotionally to family, not always laying out the full truth.
You told them my lawyer is trying to tell me my best out is working with the feds, helping them.
That answer only added more heat to the courtroom. The defense pushed even harder, arguing that Smith had given different versions of events to different people at different times. They pointed to multiple statements he made to investigators across December 2021, March 2022, August 2022, and then again during testimony in 2025. Manny Aurora kept driving one point home. How could the jury fully trust a witness whose story had shifted that many times? That question hit hard and stayed in the room. When Hernandez Govan was acquitted on August 21, 2025, after only a few hours of jury deliberation, the jury foreman explained the decision in an interview with WREG. According to him, the verdict came down to one major issue. There was not enough physical or independent evidence to back up the claims beyond the testimony of cooperating witnesses. That statement made it clear why the case fell apart. The defense had convinced the jury that too much of the prosecution's case depended on secondhand testimony from Angela Arnold and changing statements from Cornelius Smith. In later public comments, Govan also spoke about the indictment he faced in November 2022, a time he said came during a deeply difficult period in his personal life after the loss of his daughter. Govan later spoke publicly about the moment he found out about the charges, saying the whole situation felt unreal and hard to process. He explained that the case turned his life upside down and left him trying to make sense of how everything unfolded. He also directly denied rumors that had been spreading for years online and in the streets. One of the biggest claims was that Yo Gotti or someone connected to CMG had paid for his attorney, Manny Aurora, but Govan pushed back on that and said those claims were false. That denial added another layer to the public debate surrounding the case. In the end, the courtroom testimony that pointed toward a so-called higher power did not lead to a conviction for Govan. Big Juke, the person repeatedly named during testimony, had died in January 2024 and was never charged or publicly questioned in connection with these allegations. The unanswered questions still keep this case under heavy discussion. Now here's where the story gets messy, because a lot of videos online have been mixing up two completely different women and pushing a narrative that doesn't match the facts. This is the part where the record has to be set straight, because the names and roles in this case have been getting blended together in a way that changes the story completely. Angela Arnold, the woman who testified on day 2 of the Hernandez-Govan trial, is not and has never been identified as Yo Gotti's ex-girlfriend. Court testimony and public reporting show that Arnold has been in a relationship with Cornelius Smith, one of the men found guilty in the Young Dolph case, since 2016. There are no public court records, news reports, or verified sources linking her romantically to Yo Gotti at all. Arnold's role in court was as a witness connected to Smith, not as someone from Yo Gotti's personal life. During her testimony, she answered questions about what Smith had told her, but much of that information was challenged by the defense as secondhand. And to be clear, there was no apology made by Arnold in court about Yo Gotti or anything tied to him. That claim doesn't line up with the actual trial record. The person most publicly known as Yo Gotti's former partner is Angela Simmons, the television personality and daughter of Reverend Run from Run DMC. Their relationship became public on New Year's Eve in 2022 and lasted for around 2.5 years. Simmons later confirmed their breakup in June 2025 during an interview on Angie Martinez's IRL podcast, making it clear that this is a completely separate person and a completely separate story. On that podcast, Angela Simmons did not apologize for anything and did not make any claims about criminal cases or anyone's involvement in violence. Her conversation was strictly about her relationship and the emotional reality of the breakup. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less.
And you've been quiet lately. Are you guys together still or no?
No,
No.
I'm not with him.
Simmons made it clear that ending the relationship was her decision, not Yo Gotti's. She explained to the host that making that choice wasn't easy and that it came with real emotions and difficult moments.
It's not your choice?
I wouldn't have chose it, but it was what was best.
It was a personal conversation, not some shocking public confession like people online have been trying to frame it. She even repeated herself to make sure her answer was clear after the host asked again about who made the final call to end things. Simmons admitted there was heartbreak involved and that the split affected her deeply, which made the moment feel honest and personal.
Was there heartbreak involved?
My feelings were involved.
Your feelings, yeah.
Yeah.
But none of that happened in a courtroom, and none of it had anything to do with the Young Dolph case. According to public reports, Simmons has never publicly spoken on the Young Dolph case, the claims tied to Big Juke, or the court proceedings involving Hernandez-Govan or Justin Johnson. Those are separate stories, and mixing them together only creates confusion. Angela Simmons has kept her public comments about the breakup consistent, and they've stayed focused on personal relationship issues, nothing beyond that. She's not connected her personal life to any criminal case or public allegations, despite what some online rumors keep pushing. Yo Gotti has also remained publicly silent on the allegations tied to his late brother, Big Juke. As of the court records and public reporting tied to the Young Dolph case, Yo Gotti has not been charged, has not been listed as a suspect, and has not been identified as a person of interest by Memphis police. That distinction became important as the trials unfolded and speculation kept growing. During the Govan trial, retired Memphis Police Sergeant Terrence Dabney testified that Big Juke had been considered a suspect during the investigation, but Yo Gotti was not. While all of this played out in Memphis courtrooms, Gotti kept his public focus on business and music. Reports also noted that since late 2023, he has been involved in executive education at UCLA's Anderson School of Management while continuing to run CMG. In interviews and public appearances, Gotti has stayed focused on his music career, his business growth, and his views on building wealth through hip-hop culture. He has spoken about leaving street life behind and creating opportunities through entertainment and business. Even as court proceedings involving his late brother continued, he has not publicly addressed the Young Dolph case or the Hernandez-Govan trial. And when people look through his public social media and interviews, there's no direct public discussion from him about the case Dolph or the court proceedings. When you line up the facts, the difference between courtroom claims, online rumors, and verified records becomes much clearer. When you break it all down, the title being pushed across YouTube and other platforms just doesn't match what actually happened. The claim that Yo Gotti's ex-girlfriend apologized in court and exposed multiple violent incidents is not backed by the trial record or the public facts. That headline may grab attention, but the details tell a very different story. The woman who testified, Angela Arnold, was not Yo Gotti's ex-girlfriend and has never been publicly identified that way. She also did not apologize in court for anything connected to Yo Gotti. Her testimony centered on statements she said Cornelius Smith shared with her, and much of it was challenged as secondhand during cross-examination. And despite how some headlines spin it, her testimony centered on a single criminal case, the Young Dolph incident that took place on November 17, 2021 at Makita's Cookies. In her testimony, the person she identified as the alleged higher power was Big Jook, Yo Gotti's late brother, not Yo Gotti himself. Big Jook died in January 2024 before any formal charges or interview connected to these allegations took place. The actual ex-girlfriend people keep bringing up, Angela Simmons, has stayed completely away from the criminal side of this story and has only spoken publicly about her relationship with Yo Gotti in personal terms. Her comments have been about why the relationship ended, not about court cases, investigations, or any allegations tied to the Young Dolph case. As for the trial itself, Hernandez Govan walked away acquitted, and that outcome changed the whole direction of the case. Meanwhile, Yo Gotti, whose name keeps surfacing in headlines and rumors, has never faced charges tied to the Young Dolph case and has not made any public statements about the claims connected to it. That's a major fact people can't ignore. When you line everything up, a lot of the viral titles and stories floating around online just don't match the actual court record. The real story runs deeper and hits harder than any flashy headline can explain. Young Dolph's life came to a tragic end, and 2 men were ultimately found guilty in the case. The man accused of being the middle link was found not guilty, and the person described in testimony as the alleged higher power, Big Jook, is no longer here to respond to those claims. This case still leaves behind a lot of questions, a lot of pain, and a lot of debate. If you want more breakdowns like this, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with somebody who's following the case, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Stay locked in for more real updates and deep dives.